Hi everybody, welcome to a brand new episode of CFO's Not Talking Finance. Today we have with us a guest that I'm very excited about. I have been bugging her for I think over a year and a half to feature on this episode, and finally she's free. But the reason of course that she stays so busy is something that we will delve into during the rest of the episode, but you are in store for a fabulous episode because today we're speaking to Janet, and we're not just joined by Janet, actually we're joined by a lot of other characters as well on our podcast that we would love to know more about. And in the 10 minutes that we've spent chatting so far, I have learned that Janet is all about more than just what is there in the boardroom and the four walls of the office. She lives and she makes it a point to live a very fulfilling life, both in terms of her family as well as her multiple other pursuits that we'll be talking about. Janet, thank you so much for agreeing to be on this episode. And yeah, it's absolutely lovely to have you here, especially because we want more and more women CFOs as well. But otherwise, the first question I told you is going to be a bit of a googly, and I don't know how you're going to answer it considering all your multiple talents. But you've been a fabulous leader, a CXO, a CFO. If there's one thing that you would be terrible at, like something that you just can't get hired for, what would that be?
Investment banking.
Why do you say that?
So my first job was into investment banking, and I felt that I was only in front of a laptop doing a lot of numbers and a lot of video conferencing. So I'm a very people's person. I need to have people around me. Now, of course, maybe at a higher level, you do get to interact with a lot of people. But my first thing when I went there, it was like more of a monotonous job, and I was like trying to solve recs, and I felt, what more can I do? I felt that I'm not doing enough for what I've studied for. So that's when I left investment banking.
That's a lot of clarity to have at a young age, especially for your first job, where you just assume that, okay, this is how it's going to be. So what sparked within you, and what made you think that, okay, this is not how my job will be, or rather I want to change the industry? Because I believe after that you've been in hospitality for a while, so that's a complete 360.
Yes.
So how did that come about?
I think I was already a leader right from my school age. So if you say I was a prefect, captain, vice captain, I was best student of the year. So in my school days as well, I was always a leader. So I would always say, is this job, my question to my job would be, is this job really going to make me a CFO in the next 10, 12 years? So maybe my targets were really, skewed. Like within 10 years, I wanted to become the CFO, and I did. Less than 10 years rather. But so that was a question that I used to always feel in. Will I be able to handle entire finance within that company? And the answer was no. It would have been a very slow growth. Plus, I wasn't enjoying that.
So you would always work backwards in terms of, okay, if I want to get here in say 5-10 years, am I on the path to achieve
Yes,
that?
right.
Okay, understood. And I wanted to ask this more organically, but now you move on to the unexpected side of you. Are there any talents or hobbies that your colleagues in the last two companies might not know about?
I speak a lot about myself, and I try to ask my colleagues and my team also to follow what their passions are. So maybe I've spoken in bits and pieces to everybody, or they may have Googled me somewhere. I'm found there. So a lot of passions that you can see. So during my child, when Shaurya was small, I went to do fashion designing, which was my childhood, dream. So I did fashion designing from INFD, and then again I won an award for that as a best designer.
That one, right?
Yes.
That one, right?
And I
That's
had a
amazing.
childhood dream of, becoming a model and wear a gown, and walk on the stage. So I did one of them.
We have. I'm so sorry to interrupt your flow, but we have a huge stack here of books and magazines where Janet has featured, and she's also on the cover of a lot of these magazines. And so that's another whole section that we're going to show the viewers about.
And I think I keep doing a lot of artwork and stitch my own garments. Like what I'm wearing right now is also stitched by me. So that is something that people get amazed even at office. When I say that, oh, where did you buy this from? And I say, no, it's stitched by me. So that's that's something that I really love doing.
That's amazing. So if you have to pick three, because see, a lot of these awards are for different things. They're for modeling, they're for designing. A lot of them are for the impact that you're able to, and the change that you're able to affect through your social initiatives and the causes that you run. So if you had to pick any 3 awards from this that are most special to you.
Yeah, so I'll go to the first ones, because after that everything was a thing that followed one after the other. So one of the first ones was the INIFD Best Designer Award.
Yeah.
Which is this.
And just to recap, you got this when you were on your break,
baby
break, and then you just did this.
It's like I can't sit idle at all. So I had to do something. I used to feel that the baby sleeps the whole day. What do I do? So I have this habit of doing a lot of crochet and other stuff, that I normally do without learning it from anywhere. So I felt, why not put this into something that's more creative? And this was also one of my wishes, childhood wishes, that stitch my own garments, walk on the ramp or something. So that's what I did. Then the other one is the Gorgeous Queen of Maharashtra. Now that helped me actually to, voice out a lot of my opinions. So I kept doing a lot of social work and bits and pieces in my own arena. But, when I did this, I got way to a lot of media, newspapers, would ask my opinions, because I think only when you have some kind of this kind of an award, only then you are actually asked for an opinion. Others ask me, CFO be asked for an opinion apart from a budget. No. So on the social front, that is what helped me. The third one I'll say is the Swing. That is a book which is of 35 women CAs, and I'm featured as one of them. So this is called Stories of Women Inspiring Next Generation, where 35 women CAs, how they became and how their struggle was from childhood, how difficult it was to become CA, and yet they became CAs. So that is something that is very close to me, and there is an award there. And those women CAs, this book came up in 2020, and it's been 5 years, and we are still in touch. We are a great group of
35 women
friends. Yeah, all 35. We keep meeting every year, and it's like we are beyond CAs. We help each other, not just for CA, but it's also, for each other. We are there for each other.
Yeah.
I think
and these are
that's something that I made for life.
How nice. And these are inspiring stories, yours predominantly being one of the most inspiring stories, because I read it, of course, I was reading this before we shot this, but can you tell us a little more about that? Because your mother single-handedly brought up you 3 sisters, and you've also mentioned that your elder sister had to give up her studying medicine, and then you kind of thought about doing CA, and you moved everybody. So please tell us the story, the origin story of Janet.
So I was very little, 5 years old, when my daddy passed away. He was in the Indian Navy. But then my mother, because she was educated, she could take up a job of a teacher. And, obviously we could just meet our ends, sometimes not even meet our ends. So it was so difficult for us, even to think of what we want to become. We had dreams, of course, but my mother had more dreams than us, I think, And then she was the one who was to say, education is the only way where you can push yourself and you'll achieve, you'll get what you don't wait for you to get married to a man and then, he's going to give you a house or he's going to give you his riches. So that was in our mind that, we have to study, we have to, stand first, we have to go ahead. And the only way was getting scholarships, going ahead. And in this way, in my entire journey, they say that God sends angels. I had angels, like, though my dad wasn't there, I had a father, our principal rector, Father Elias Dines. He's no more. But he would guide me continuously, Janet, you can do this, you can become CA. That's where I read in his cabin about CA and said, you don't need fees. I said, how much fees do you need? He said, no, it's barely anything. You're intelligent, you can do it. Just by he saying that you are intelligent, you can do it, I picked it up and said, now this is what I want to do, basically. And I started my journey, and I think over the time I kept meeting people who could, sometimes they would help, sometimes there were challenges which would help me become more stronger. And I still remember, the challenges that I, as little as I couldn't buy my own books, I couldn't pay my fees, but I would, in articles, I would get these allowances for travel. I would walk for 4 kilometers to save that 4 rupees and, get those 2 books at the month end to study. And, obviously I couldn't afford to have classes or stuff, but then the rigor and the hunger to become something, and to get what was lost, we were rich and we were great. But then you lose things, and then I wanted to get back there. I wanted to have a house for my mother, a house for myself. And that rigor and that hunger is what, gets into you, and then you become what you want to become.
That's seriously inspiring. And you got a rank in your CA foundation.
Yes. And
Were
that
you
was
expecting it?
No, not at all. I was thinking that I'm going to flunk because I wasn't going for classes. All my friends, I think in my class, 90% were giving their exams. And I was one of them, and everyone would say, classes bhi nahi jati, how are you even going to pass? But I think that, as I'm saying, that rigor was a determination that I want to give my best. I think those 5 years, I did nothing but studying. I lost a lot on those years also. I did bits and pieces of I have had great friends and all. I couldn't do as much, fun in college as much as people do in fun, in college days.
But I think you've more than made up for the lost time.
I did. I think post I became CA, I did everything that I wanted. I did a dance class. I've done this, which people do in their college days, ramp walk, performing on stage, everything that you can think of, and everything that you can think of, marathons, I didn't leave anything, I still have a bucket list. I keep ticking them, and I say, no, there's one life, and I've got to tick all of them.
That's amazing. I think all of your answers are suffixed by me saying that's amazing, that's inspiring. But it's so true, it's just coming organically. For our next question, we generally ask this to CXOs or CFOs, and we say, okay, what is your life beyond the balance sheet? But here for you, I have to say, what is your life beyond the balance sheet and beyond all these hobbies and pursuits that you have and talents that you're obviously nurturing. But we also know that there is something that is very close to your heart in terms of making a larger impact in terms of all the social causes that you're associated with. So what are some things that you do, or rather you take time out to do, because it's not easy, being at your level and managing 50 things, but you still take the time out to do that.
So actually, if you see, if it's close to your heart, you don't have to take time out. It's just there within you. Within those 24 hours, it hardly takes 5 minutes a day if there's somebody who approaches you. So like somebody says that, Janet, there's some blood requirement, how much time does it take for you to post it on a group or speak to somebody who's from that area? It hardly takes a minute, and that can do something wonders to somebody else. Like suppose there's a child who comes to me or a parent who comes to me and says that, Janet, can you speak to my son about what commerce can do to them, or he wants to do CA, doesn't want to do CA, can you guide him? How much time is it really going to take? It's going to take 15 minutes of my life. Right?
Yeah.
But that can change somebody's life. But the thing is that in today's world, we are so busy and we think that we are busy. We have the time 2 hours for a movie, but we won't take out that 5 or 10 minutes to speak to somebody and do something. So I think it's very close to my heart. That's why I keep doing it. And in these things, whatever comes on my way, even if it's like children, fundraising for a spastic children, like I did a 55-kilometer for Ummeed, and I raised funds for them. Sense International, there were blind children, raising funds for them, walking for them, doing bits and pieces. And the larger impact, what I do is talk to children who need to be educated. So I mentor children, from Catalyst. I have a mentee who she's got scholarship from Catalyst. It's an NGO, and I meet her regularly once a month to guide her as to what she can do in life. Similar stories to mine. There are so many of them who come from villages, who want to do this. The other thing that's very close to my heart is single women and their struggles, and how they struggle to not to have their similar life to pass on to their children.
Yeah.
So I try speaking to them. There's a listening ear that I have to them. And I think initially my family would wonder, what does she do all the time, if she is talking to somebody, and some random people also, more women and children. But then now it's more respected. It's also accepted that this is something that you're doing and it's a great thing to do. And that's something that I wanted to continue doing. And so I think I will never retire. I'll continue doing all of these things.
Yeah. I think both the types of causes that you mentioned, I think they have something to do with your own life. Because
Yes.
first you said,
Yes.
you want to give direction and mentorship to children, something that, you
Yes.
had in your life. You
Yes.
had the right mentors.
Yeah.
And second, single mothers. And, that's
Yes.
again from
Yes.
your mother.
Yes.
You saw her
So
struggle.
I know, if you know, I mean, it's maybe a small number, but I know I have 53 women currently connected to me who are single mothers. And it's not that I'm, giving them financially support. There are more other supports that they need. And if you're able to even be there, I think somewhere from the universe, God brings them around my table, somewhere or the other, and I get connected to them.
Such a lovely thought. So you're channeling not just your financial, means, but also the network that you have built over the years, and you're seeing
Yes.
how to have these women also benefit from that.
Yes, yes.
Very nice. And who were the mentors that instilled not these values, because I believe these values is something that you yourself have also inculcated, but from your professional life, or maybe some manager that you had who was probably exceptionally good, the school principal that you mentioned.
Yes.
So if you had to name about 3 to 4 mentors in your life,
Yes.
or your guiding angels, who would they be?
One is definitely Father Dias, my rector principal. The second one is Ramnidhi Vasan. He's no more. He died during COVID. But amazing mentor. I mean, he would push me to what limits, and there are some bosses who actually push you ahead of them. They are not the ones who take credit. He showed me that how to give credit to others, and he gave me those credits. I really look up to him when I see that. And of course, in my early days of my career, there was Gautam Sethi. In Taj days, he was again one of those who would push me to different kind of opportunities apart from finance. He'll make me go to the ops team, he'll make me go to the sales team, and when I would come back, he was somebody who would listen to me and listen to my ideas as to what change I want to make and why I want to make. He wouldn't laugh and make me wait outside. I think these are different kind of people.
Yeah.
Otherwise you find bosses or directors who are not very welcoming, who have that aura or the air around them, but these are people who didn't have those.
Yeah.
And I have picked up things from them, and I am one of them.
Yeah, I can clearly see that. I don't think you're the type of manager who will not champion her team.
I do. I make sure that I have examples in my team that I had a office boy, who would sit with me and learn Excel. And he wasn't a graduate, and he did his graduation. Today he's a stores manager in Taj. I groom even from the lowest to the highest, whoever has worked with me. I want them to reach where I am and beyond me. And then they are examples.
You mentioned Mr. Gautam Sethi, I believe, and I think our listeners will also know you have a very illustrious career in hospitality. First IHCL, then I believe Citrus, Soho House, and what have you. So what is the best part about working in hospitality, other than maybe the finance aspect of it, which I'm sure you became an expert in, but otherwise also?
Wherever you see, hospitality people, they're always smiling. There's a saying which I say, in fun way: stressed yet well dressed. So no matter what they talk behind or whatever is happening behind the scenes, we are all great glamorous people around to make somebody else's day better. That's the impact of hospitality. So you go to a restaurant, that person may be having a lot of issues at their home, but then when he greets you with a lot of love and affection, and that's what I've learned from Taj. I think, and that I carry that with me, even though I'm in, I joined a fintech company or wherever. I have that in me, because it's like, you become what you are for the last 10 years.
Yeah, even the first time I met you.
Your profession defines you, and then
Yes.
because I was maybe at those kind of, places, it has defined me. So you're pleasant and,
Correct.
uh,
I think the first time we met was at a networking event.
Yes.
And you did not seem like a fintech CFO at all. They
Yes.
have a very strict aura around them, but you were so warm and welcoming, and you didn't care that I was just, way junior to you. You just engaged me in conversation, and you put just as much effort into it as I was obviously doing, because I wanted to make a good impression on you. But you had that same open, honest air about you, where you were not that, okay, I'm someone so senior and I've achieved so much. I didn't even know all of this about you then, but you were still so open with, your advice, and the conversation also flowed so well.
Always remember, you always keep your values grounded and go back to your roots. So wherever you are, never forget that at once upon a time, where were you? That makes you more humble, and you don't have the arrogance around you of what you've achieved. Because if you have the arrogance, nobody will even observe what you achieve.
Right.
Only because you're humble, that's when people will, see that and, relish that, being around you.
Janet, you said you must go back to your roots. I don't want to stereotype Goa as such, but I know you're from Goa, but they're very relaxed and laid back. Not in a bad way, but
Yes.
they're generally not as ambitious
Yes.
as you are, and not as driven. what makes you different from, the rest?
I think the situations, life takes you to those situations when I could see hardships. I could see hardships in my mother, how she was struggling. She wanted us to study, and what was her focus. And I felt somewhere that, maybe the place that I was in a very small village in Goa. I was not in the, huzz buzz of Goa, which people mostly see as a party place. I was in a very small place. So from there, if I had to actually do something in life, we had to work, right? I mean, I didn't have those things that, at 20 years, I'm going to get married and get settled. None of us, all three sisters. So we, that was something that used to trigger me. And I had met somebody, another mentor, I'll say, Joycey girl. She's a singer and she works in Muscat. Of course, I met her through the principal itself. And so he has to groom her. When I met her once in school, she'd come and she'd really look like Madhuri Dixit. And then I realized, she works. She's studying, how she's achieving her dreams. That really gave me that boost, that, if I go to Bombay, I'm going to make my life. I can make it like her. I really followed her, and then when I kept asking questions to Father Dias that, what if I do this? How can I do this? He said, yeah, you can do work. I'll get you a work in job in Bombay with your college. Work in, around Bombay. So I stayed in Panvel. I would come all the way to Sion, to study, and then from there go to work. So it was something, not like usual. When my friends after 11th standard, and they're sitting and chilling in the canteen, I would go hi, say hi, bye. Everyone knew who's Jenny. People would call me Jenny. But in that 5-10 minutes, I would network and then push off to work. So for me, it was not like 2 hours to connect to people. It was 5 minutes, and yet people knew me in college also. So that is what I learned. But then I really wanted to do something in life. That rigor came from my situations, people I saw around me, and then I said, let me not get, lost in the world where normally people are sitting and chilling. I want to head here. And there is life to do, a lot of the chilling. I do a lot of chilling now, I do whatever
chilling.
I want to do, I dance, I sing, I do everything,
Well-earned chilling. Well-earned chilling.
Yeah,
I think.
what's stopping me now?
Yeah, and just to clarify, the job you mentioned earlier, that was not articleship. You were working even before articleship.
Yes. So it was like receptionist, taking calls, and I remember my first job was at UDEC International. Again, I'm in touch with him as well, Kirk De Cruz. He was the founder. He had come from IIMs, and I knew nothing, like, not even like how to take up a phone and say, hello, good morning, how can I help you? This is all that I knew. And then not even computers, nothing. And I think on the job, I learned typing, I learned something on the computer, but I was a fast learner. At times when he would interview others, he would call me and ask me a question and say, look, she can answer and you cannot answer. So I was like little tiny girl, 16-year-old, what more can you expect, And, But I found great people around me, and just by looking at my vision, people would even smile and say, will she even do this? Will she be able to do it?
Yeah. Like what you were saying earlier, your personality is so vivacious. That's generally not the type of people who end up choosing CA as a career.
Yes.
So people have that misconception about you that, do you think, will she even be able to clear
right.
CA? And you mentioned that, you found great people. So the next question is in terms of people outside of finance, right? Throughout your career, I'm sure you must have interacted with multiple teams, ops, IT, marketing, sales. So what were some, leadership or team management skills that you picked up from folks that were not from finance?
Networking is something that I've picked up from others, because I think finance people don't network much. They're in their own cocoon and they feel that, I can learn only about finance. I can learn about Excel. I can learn Power BI, and they don't go beyond that. I think what I've learned from the others is networking. One, it's very important because you never know when you turn out to be a CEO. That's what I aim for at some day, And the second thing is, people are reluctant to even mingle with other departments. I think you should mingle with other departments, having your own firm line, where you want to draw with your colleagues. That is something that people don't do. They sit in their own That's again something that I feel that finance people should get out and speak to others, because you get a different perspective about how they think about the company, And then you actually can, align your goals to them, and you can speak better. you know, rather than having fights over it. So I think in my initial days of my career, I did fight with people. You know, I had like vocal fights with the marketing team and ops team, and I wanted to prove that no, this is right, this is my way of doing it. I think over the years I learned that that's not the way to do it. The younger leadership role, this is what I did, but then later I learned that this is not the way to handle it. That the other way is to connect to them differently, personally as well. And then understand the perspective, and then then you can align. Then I don't think so that if you're firm about and you're able to explain as to what you want, there is nobody, even a salesperson is not going to say no to what you're saying.
Yeah. In terms of what you said earlier, where you would have arguments with teams like marketing or something, just to say that no, your numbers were correct. Do you think that's generally the trait of finance folks, where they believe that they're right because they have data backing them?
They speak with that kind of the aura or the firmness. So I'll not say that's firmness, but it's more like data representation. That's right. You are right, but the other way to look at it is that why would somebody want to buy what you are saying? They are also under pressure to get their sales, or to get their market captured. So sales marketing, especially. So the other way to, like I said, the other way to look at it is like, you are working for the top line. I'm only here to help you to get the top line, right? So if you work together, you can get a better top line, and I'll get the better bottom line to get you better returns and get you better salaries and bonuses. That's how to. That's
it's a nice way to look at it. Everyone's working towards the same goal.
Yes, exactly.
But finance is more bothered with the bottom line, and everybody else is probably
We should stop doing the fault finding game. My initial days, yes, because maybe I was also younger leader. I became CFO also very young age. I was a financial controller before I was 30, so even when you're very young, you have that, this fire within you that, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. And everything is moving fast. You also want to prove yourself. That's there, and it does happen, but over time, that's experience, that comes in.
So if you had to meet, for example, if we give you a time machine and you had to meet 21-year-old Janet, what advice would you give her?
No, I'm really happy about what I did 20 years. So I have this, this saying which talks about Mark Twain says, 20 years down the line, you will be more disappointed with the things that you did not do than the things that you did. So 20 years back, if I look at myself, I'm happy of what decisions I took, because I really took conscious decisions. I wasn't one of them who was doing things because my mother said something or my friends did something or they were following a profession. I didn't. I led things. I led. People followed me, and I really took conscious decisions. Like consciously, even spending, if I had a 500 rupee, I really spent it consciously. So I'm not unhappy about what I did 20 years back. Not at all.
So that line in the story where your mom says, when you finally cleared CA, so no more studying, is it? So that you're not disappointed that you spent those early years?
No, I think every student, I would advise every student to make sure you have to give just 2 or 3 years of your life to what you want to become. I'm not saying studying only, even if it's like photography, then, do it with a great rigor for those 2 years or 3 years, and actually that will make your life. And you have, obviously, see, if you look at me, 16 years of my studying, when I did have fun, school days, didn't I? So when I had fun for 16 years, the next 4 or 5 years are the ones that make your career. So why not give those days? And then after that, are you old? Really? 20 years? You're not old. Correct. You have the entire world if you have already done the studies. Like become a CA, you become whatever, become a photographer. Give it all, the maximum to it. You have the world after 20. And you had the world for those 16 years also of your school, right? I mean, it's just that feeling that what if I miss the fun? You aren't missing, and bits and pieces I would do all my fun also. Not that I didn't do anything at all. I went for picnics, I went for movie, I went for dances, I went for a New Year. But obviously when I danced, I danced. When I studied, I was studying.
Can you jive?
I do. Salsa, jive is like something that I can't stop. Play a music right away and I'll start.
Maybe once we
finish.
This
is a very funny story to tell you.
That I would jive and do salsa anytime that the song is played. And then, then my friend, my husband now, he would be very jealous of people who dance with me. Then I told him that if you don't want to see me dancing with others, please learn. And the first thing he did after marriage was he learned salsa.
And he's a
that's
better
cool.
dancer than me.
That is such a lovely story. Wow. Do you guys go for salsa dance workshops even now?
No, not workshops, I said, but whenever the music plays, we dance. And then when we
Lovely.
dance, it's like you steal the floor.
That's very cool. So if your husband and you had to invite 3 people over, so if you had to host a dinner party, and these could be 3 people across time and space, history, living or dead, who would you invite firstly? And the second part of the question is, what would you serve them? What food would you
So if it's my choice with my husband also, not his choice,
Huh.
obviously
this is
he'll
a
have his own
podcast about Janet. It's only about
So
Janet.
then obviously the 3 people I mentioned about is, they're no more. It's my dad, of course, because I miss having a conversation with him or miss his touch, because he passed away at 5 years. I was 5. I still have his photo in my book, the diary. I open and first see his photo before I start my work. So he's very close to me, and I believe he's around me. The second
He would be
is,
so proud. of
I'm
everything.
sure he is, and he is a very kind person. And the second is Father Dias, of course, and all of them are not living. In fact, the 3 that I would want to invite, and the third is Ramanidhi Vasan, who really made me a leader. He was somebody who pushed me, made me understand, sit with me, make me understand what a leadership is, what is the outlook that you need to see, when you are a leader. So these 3 of them. What I would serve them, all 3, 2 of them would eat the same thing, Goan food.
Huh.
My father and Father Dias. My father would like meat, red meat. And Ramanidhi Vasan, he would love Asian food.
Nice.
I don't know to cook, but I would definitely want a chef to get, and he was very particular about how it is served, and it's a great, hotelier.
Closing question, which is, if your life had a soundtrack, what would you pick? Which song would you pick?
Now there are 2 of them, but I'll sing. Do I have to sing?
No, you don't have to sing. It's okay. It's up to you. It's completely up to you. Is that another hidden talent, Janet?
We used to sing in the choir.
Okay.
And for long years, I think from my 10th, 11th standard till I became CA, so long years, 10, 11 years in the choir. So I used to go to churches and sing for weddings, and sang for my sister's weddings also, solo also, so whatever we used to. So now we are learning guitar, me and my son.
Wow.
I keep doing something every year, so that's crazy me. I think life is short. I have many things to learn. So yeah, one is Aaj Main Upar Aasmaan Neeche.
Nice. Can you sing that for us?
Little bit. I think I've forgotten the lyrics of it. Aaj main upar, आसमां नीचे, आज मैं आगे, ज़माना पीछे, आज मैं ऊपर, आसमां नीचे.
This really is the soundtrack of your life. I don't think you could have picked a more appropriate song, to be honest. But you had another one as well.
Yes, it's a Dhoni song, which is my caller tune. It is called Besabriyan.
Okay.
It says, Raaste hai aage, where will you go? That is where you have to come at some time in life.
Wow. It's amazing, Janet. And just one closing question. If there was a question that people could ask you more often, what would that question be?
Ask me, what next? That is the question. Because I keep doing something new every time. So maybe the question is,
Okay, so what's next, Janet? What's next for the next financial year, for the next Q1? What's next?
What's next? So I'm coming to a new inning, I think, now. And now that my son is also growing, I have a lot of things and business things in my mind. So obviously the next 4-5 years, I hope to become an entrepreneur.
Wonderful. And what industry would that be, most likely?
No, I'll not disclose.
Oh, you won't disclose that. Okay, you can tell me after we turn the cameras off. But thank you so much, Janet. This was an absolute pleasure. Did you have fun on the podcast?
Amazing. I didn't feel it was a podcast. I think we just spoke, and it was just like natural.
Yeah, I think that's 90% you. You always make us feel warm and welcome each time we have a conversation with you. So I am looking forward to our conversation even off camera.
Yes, of course, of course.
Yes.
Once I'm in touch, I'm always in touch forever.
Yes, that's true. Which is why after a year, I mean, you would always respond. So that's just one aside. You know, I said in the introduction that I've been bugging you for over a year for this, but you would always respond. You would never leave me hanging. You would tell me, you know, what's going on, that, you know, you're busy, something's come up, quarter end, you know, the audit is happening, whatever. But you would always keep me posted, and you would always say, we'll do this next time. You would never say no.
Yeah.
I think that's something that, you know, I have definitely learned from you. Closing statements? Yeah, sure. I think each time I say this and each time it's true, but I think this was the best episode so far. So thank you so much, Janet.